Hi, it's Danielle here from East Hants Youth Links, and today we are going to create a drawing using some chalk and charcoal pencils. And I just have here some pastel chalk. So you can do this with any type of medium if you want to just draw with colored pencils or oil pastels or just a regular pencil. It's just a step-by-step drawing, but in this video I am going to use the pastel chalk and charcoal, and as well just plain white chalk. And we're going to draw this cute little picture that I took off the internet here of a little baby deer. So I'm going to break this down into shapes for you as we draw it, step by step. So what I'm going to start with is actually just a piece of white chalk to draw with. And I'm going to break down the shapes of this little baby deer. So if I just kind of look at this picture right now, I can see lots of little shapes, like his little snout here. I'm seeing a circle. He's got an oval egg-shaped head, where you can also see a nice big circle and then an oval at the bottom. He has a nice big oval ears, some circle eyes, got like a rectangle neck here on an angle. So thinking of those shapes, I'm going to start drawing my little baby deer. So the very first shape I'm going to draw is his actual head. So I'm going to draw it as a circle. I'm not going to worry about the bottom part of his head where his snout is. I'm just going to do the top part of his head. And I'm just take my chalk here and I'm just going to put a circle for his head. Now I'm not worrying about it being a perfect shape. This is just my lay-in sketch. So I have a circle head, and then I want to have his nose. So it is another circle down here. So I'm going to let them crisscross. So it's smaller. Okay. So I have a smaller snout, bigger head. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to join them. So I want them to join. I'm going to pull in on the side so I have a curve. I'm just going to erase with my finger here, rub it in. So now I have this curve. So I have a circle, out to around and back. So now I have the shape of my little deer's head. Now his little nose is actually a lot smaller. So what I'm going to do down here at the bottom, I am going to draw another circle. So this isn't his nose, it's actually the end of his snout. So I'm putting in that circle shape. Okay. And then from the sides of his nose, I'm just going to draw a line up and curve out, up and curve out. And I'm just kind of giving the bridge of his nose up, and out here is where his eyes would be, okay? So up and out. Now if you look where his eyes go out, it's the base of his ears. So his ears are right here and right here. Now his ears are kind of like a big raindrop and they're coming right off the page. So I'm going to go out. Big, long, pointy ears for my deer here. And I'm not worried about them coming off the page. So it's raindrops, not seeing the actual end point of them because they're coming right off. All right, so now we have his shape of his head, his ears. Now I'm going to add his neck. Now if you look at his neck, it comes right up to the side of his head here, so right up here by his cheek. And then it comes down and out, and from under his chin, here and down. So right now I'm really starting to see the deer come to life as I block off the shapes. Okay. So if you look at his neck here, he's got a separation of where he's got some white on his belly and the brown. So I'm just going to block it off. So 1, 2. Okay. Now his nose, the end of his mouth. So he has a nose on his snout, but then he has his mouth as well. So on this circle here, I'm just going to block off where his nose is, and it's kind of like a little bit of a rectangle, but the sides are angled in a little bit. Okay, so I'm just blocking off where his nose is, and you can see under his nose is where his mouth splits. So I'm going to actually draw a line, like almost like a smile under his nose, and just kind of highlight where the bottom of his mouth is. So it just kind of broke up that circle. So I have the bottom of his mouth, his nose. Okay, so I drew a little rectangle nose inside that circle snout, and then I drew a kind of a smiley face shape right underneath the nose to add the little mouth underneath. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to add in where his eyes are. So as we made this shape come up and out, right here is where his eyes are. So the way I'm going to do his eyes is I'm actually just going to do, on this side, I'm going to do a backwards C, okay? And then I'm going to curve the other way and out. So it's a backwards C and then a swoop the other way like a C. Same thing on this side. You can do your C out and your backwards C in. Because his eyes are on the side of his head, so you're just seeing a bump in and out, okay? So now he's really starting to come to life for us. We have his snout, his head, his eyes, his ears, okay? Next little thing I want to block off are kind of the inside of his ears to make them look fluffy. And I'm just going to start right at the base of the head and flick out to the top, out to the top. Same with this ear, out to the top. Okay, just a little white in his ears. I'm going to just rub it into the paper. Now I'm using this brown paper. You can use whatever color paper you have. You can do this on a black piece of paper or a white piece of paper. I'm just kind of using the brown a little as some color on my page. Okay. So I want to add a little bit more white with my chalk. I want to add in where there's some white on this tier. So I know on his belly here, underneath, coming down, I want it to be white. And I'll blend it in the paper, okay? I also know I wanted it to be white around where his nose is and a little bit of his mouth. And just kind of whiten that up a little bit more, not his snout. You still see where his little mouth opens. Want to get a little bit more white up around his eyes here. And I want to get a little bit more white. I already put a little in the ears already, but I'm just going to add a little more in his ears. And I'm just rubbing it in with my finger, the chalk. Okay. All right, this is looking good. I'm going to put a couple little flicks of white up to the top of his head. So right from his snout up, just a couple little ticks and blend in. All right, so I really have a good base started for my deer. So now I'm going to go in and start adding some detail. So I'm going to use just a charcoal pencil here. So I'm going to go down to his little nose first. So his nose right now, we have kind of this box shape left. And I want to add detail. So at the top corners of this box, I want to do a little curve in on each side, almost like backwards C's on the sides of his nose. And they're going to come in and curve. And this is going to give him his little nostril. Okay. And then from that, we're going to come down. So we're just using that block as a guide to actually draw the shape of the nose. Okay. So we went C's, C's, and in the other way, and then a smiley face at the bottom. And I want that nose, so I'm going to just do a little tick, 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 right down the center here to where his little smile is. And I'm just going to darken that up a little bit so you can see where his mouth is. Okay, he's starting to come alive a little bit more. Okay, now his nose, we're going to darken it up a little bit more. I want it to look kind of fuzzy as it goes up into his head here, so I'm just doing little ticks. And the rest I'm going to almost just color in with my black charcoal. Again, I'm using a reference photo. I will add the reference photo into the info in the post when you're following this video. So if you want to print out the actual photo to look at as you draw, I love to have a reference photo as I draw. Okay. I'm just kind of darkening that nose up with some black. Okay. Doing little ticks to give it a little texture to make it look a little bit fuzzy underneath. Now, the next part I want to do that's a little bit black is his eyes. So I'm gonna come up to his eyes here, and I'm following the shape that I already drew, okay? And these eyes I wanna have pop right out. So I'm going to actually draw a little circle on this eye right here. So I wanna leave that so I have a nice highlight. I'm going to color in his eye black. Okay, so his eyes are really starting to pop out now, okay? Now, on that eye, I wanna add a little bit of eyelashes and details. So right from the curve, we're gonna come out, following those curves from the bottom and flicking out from the bottom and flicking out from the top. Okay, one eye. I'm gonna go to the other side and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm also using some pastel chalk here. So I'm going to go in and add a little bit of brown. Like I'm using a brown paper already, so I'm going to add a little bit of this yellowy brown. And I'm going to start from the top of the bridge of his nose, and I'm just going to do little ticks up. Follow the shape of his head. If you want something to feel like it's going a certain way, you draw it in that direction. Okay. I'm gonna put a little pinky in this little baby ears here. So just right in the center. And again, I'm doing little long strokes, flicking to give it some texture, to make it look fuzzy. Okay. Now I'm gonna put just a little bit of pink down here where his mouth is. Just a little highlight. And then I'm going to get a little bit of darker brown. And I'm going to go in with my darker brown, and I'm not going to put a lot in. I just want to put a couple little ticks here and there to give him more of a fuzzy look. And I'm doing this up the same way I did the yellow. I'm going to come right up the base of his nose, up to the top of his head. This time you can go back in with your regular chalk if you want, and I'm going to use that to go back in, add some detail I lost. And this might even be very subtle. highlights, I want them to be white. I want to make those eyes a little bit darker, so I'm just going to go back in with my charcoal again. Add your finishing touches. Sometimes you gotta go back and forth a little bit.